Do you really believe that South Africa belongs to the white man? Yes, absolutely. Let's start with the very name of the country. South Africa. South, designating a direction, as indicated by a compass. Invention of the white man, right? Africa, a name given to the continent by the white Romans. Now, let's run through absolutely everything that South Africa operates on. Does it operate on any African cultural systems? Or is our constitution, our system of law, our economic system, all of our infrastructure, are those all the products of Western society or African society? You see, I don't see our leaders, even in South Africa, ever getting together in a mud hut and discussing the state of the nation. Where do they get together? Yeah, in European-style buildings, right? Discussing matters in the English language that pertain to a European-based economic system of law and governance. So yeah, South Africa from beginning to end was defined by the white man, even the borders defined by the white man. Prior to that, there were a bunch of tribes with different tribal areas living a very primitive existence, of which we use nothing in what we call current day South Africa. Sure, they still exist and have some of their cultural norms operating in their small villages, but is any of that useful to run a country? No, that's why none of it is used. That's also why your languages aren't even used in tertiary institutions, because they become redundant, because they don't even have the vocabulary to serve at a tertiary level. The scientific, mathematical, geographical, historical terms don't exist in your languages. So yes, South Africa absolutely belongs to the white man. They built it, they bled for it. It is based on all of our culture and ingenuity. Nothing about South Africa is based on black inventions and ingenuity.
It is still about South Africa, and this time I want to ask a question: that who are the real owners of South Africa? Is the black people the owners of South Africa, or is the Afrikaners, those that they refer to as Boers, or the white South Africans? Are they the real owners?
Us, the Boers, we don't take part in this, and we're not going to, and we're not going to go away, and we're the rightful owners of this land.
Black people are not the original inhabitants of South Africa, which, in fact, they're realizing that now. When they claimed that they owned all the land, the original inhabitants, of who there are not many left, said, excuse me, no, we were the original inhabitants. You guys were migrants here as well, which they were. Okay, so, the original inhabitants of Southern Africa are called the Khoisan. In the West, the Bushmen are Khoisan. Hottentots are Khoisan. But you can't use those words anymore. You now have to call them Khoisan, okay? All right, now, and they were the inhabitants of the whole of Southern Africa. So the whole of South Africa, at one stage, were Khoisan. The black people originated in what is now Cameroon. That's where they...
Hold on, Khoisan aren't black?
No.
What are they?
They're a completely separate ethnicity all on their own. In fact, if you look at them, they're kind of yellowy. They're a light brown yellow color,
Right.
but they look more Asian than African. They do not consider themselves African.
Interesting.
And in fact, they've become the colored people.
Mm.
So, and I find that people outside South Africa become really upset if you use the word colored, because they think you're using it the way Americans use colored, and that's not how South Africans use colored. Colored is an actual ethnic group. They truly have their own culture. They consider themselves an ethnic group on their own, with their own traditions, their own identity, etc. And they are a product of slaves who were brought to South Africa, who mixed with the original Khoisan to create colors.
Firstly, let us analyze how the Dutch settlers came to South Africa in 1652 from the Netherlands. They came in, they built the land, and they became the owners of the land. Mind you, they met the Khoisans, those people who looks like Chinese, but they are Africans. They were the real indigenous people that the Dutch settlers, the Boers, the Afrikaners, the white South Africans met in 1652. They didn't meet the Zulus, the Xhosas, the Vendors, or any other tribe. They only met the Khoisans. That is why they claim that the indigenous people of South Africa are only the Khoisans, but not the others. This analytics or analysis depicts it clearly that the white South Africans are really the owners of the nation because they discovered the land, they named the land called South Africa. They drew the boundaries of South Africa across Mozambique, across Zimbabwe, across Namibia. They settled in the land, they built the economy, infrastructure, everything. And later on in 1994, handed it over to the black people. So what shows that the black South Africans owns South Africa? No, that is wrong. America is being ruled by Trump, and Trump ancestors came to America and developed the place, and they owns it. When you go to Australia, it's the same situation. It's similar occurrences. The British went there, they developed the land, and they own it today. So what is the difference between Australia and South Africa? Why taking the land from the white South Africans after they developed it? Because they only made the Khoisans. And if they have anything to share, they should have shared it with the Khoisans, not the people who later came in. Like the Zulus, the Xhosas, they all later came in from Central Africa. So we have not been fair to the white South Africans. To say the truth, we have not been fair to them. This is daylight robbery. We've robbed them, their land. We've robbed them what belongs to them. And I will not be surprised if they stand up tomorrow and say that we are taking back our country. Because indeed, it's their country. It belongs to them. It is theirs. This is the truth. Let me give you a typical example of how people claim that apartheid was a bad thing and a bad idea. But as at now, people are practicing modern day apartheid. And it is good for them because it does not affect them negatively. It is good for them. But yet still, they said the white South Africans were practicing apartheid and it was a bad thing. Look at what is happening in South Africa today as the black South Africans are chasing away their African brothers and sisters, telling them to go away because they don't want to have anything to do with them. They don't want to stay with them. They don't want to settle with them. They want to be separated from them. That is the similar situation that happened during the apartheid days. The white people who owns the land, who discovered the land and utilized it, told those people coming in, like the Zulus, the Xhosas, that we don't want to be with you. We don't want to stay with you. We want to be separated from you. And they call it apartheid. But today, they are doing the same thing to their fellow African brothers and sisters. So how can you want to unite with the white man from Europe, but you cannot unite with your fellow African brothers and sisters? And you got the balls, the gas to call the white people apartheid, but you cannot call yourself an apartheid practicer. What is the difference between those you call apartheid people? Between them and you? You are even worse. There is something that we need to admit, that apartheid was not a bad idea. It was someone's preference. It was someone's choice. And it was good for them because it gave them some protection. It gave them some security. Oh yes. Just like the black South Africans of today are saying that they don't want to stay with their African brothers and sisters. It is the same. There's no difference between the Boers and black South Africans. They are even doing worse. They said the Boers or the white South Africans were killing them. They were chasing them away. They never wanted to live with them. But today, what are we seeing? We are seeing the same thing. They are practicing what they spoke against in the past. And they are doing it even worse than the Boers. They are killing their fellow African brothers and sisters in the name of, we don't want to stay with you. We want you to go back to your countries. We want to be separated from you. Meanwhile, you also came to meet the white South Africans who built the nation and handed it over to you on a silver platter. So I will not talk much. But what I'm saying is that South Africa belongs to the white people, the Boers, the Afrikaners, the Dutch settlers, because they only met the Khoisans. All other tribes came in later. They developed the nation. They built the country. They named it South Africa. It is their country, and they have every power to take it back. This is my grievances.